Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marcus White.
And I'm Fight Mode Nick Cavalli.
And as always, we welcome you to the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast. And this is the quarterfinals of the World Wrestling Classic.
So we have had some fantastic matchups along the way, and we are going to get to one of the most anticipated dream matches of all time tonight. I just want to recap the 8 people who came into tonight with the opportunity to advance to the semifinals of the first ever World Wrestling Classic. We have one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions Kenny Omega in a matchup tonight against the phenomenal AJ Styles from WWE. A WWE duo here as Drew McIntyre, the WWE World Champion, takes on the Rebel Heart, or God knows whatever his gimmick is now, Johnny Gargano. On the other hand, we have the All Elite Wrestling World Champion Jon Moxley going head-to-head with the NXT North American Champion, the Limitless Keith Lee. And one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions, seeing a pattern there, taking on the Impact World Champion, Ms. Tessa Blanchard. The fairy tale story so far of this tournament. So coming into tonight, we've talked about each and every one of these matchups, but just go ahead and tell us real quickly what you're looking forward to most.
Well, before I do that, just real quick, I want to thank you guys for the support that you guys showed on last week's video of the World Wrestling Classic. You guys really seem to like that one, and obviously me and Nick, we put a lot of effort, a lot of hard work goes into these videos, so to see you guys respond so positively to that one, it was really cool. So we appreciate the support. Hope you guys continue to tune in to these videos, support us as we continue our journey into the wrestling community. So with that being said, yes, so let's go ahead and talk about some of these matchups here. Which one would you like to start with, my friend?
Well, let's just go ahead and tell me what you're most anticipating. And of course, I mean, it should be obvious, but it's a question I have to ask as I'm sitting here interviewing you about this. What are you most anticipating in the upcoming round?
Well, clearly it was the AJ Kenny match, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think there's any other thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still going to be a fantastic night of action leading up to it. But AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega, finally, we get the resolution to who is the true king of New Japan Pro Wrestling, even though neither of them still reside in the company.
Yes. This was a fantastic round. You had so much going into this round. You had as you mentioned, the fairy tale story with Tessa Blanchard going to this. Can she overcome the odds yet again, overcoming Hangman Page? You have AJ Styles versus Kenny, 2 of the top 3 best wrestlers in the world. Don't care, that's 2 of the top 3, and they've accomplished so much in their careers. Everything that's gone into that matchup, you can talk about it forever. Obviously, you have Drew McIntyre versus Johnny Gargano. Drew McIntyre, the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He's a freak athlete. Not much to say about him, and he's so amazing. He's the prototypical, everything you want in today's pro wrestler. And then Johnny Gargano, who's just a technical master. They don't call him Johnny Wrestling for no reason. Dude's put on more 5-star classics NXT than anyone. I mean, what's the stat? He's main evented NXT more than NXT TakeOver, more than anyone in the history of NXT. And then finally, we do have the Jon Moxley versus Keith Lee match, which biggest clash of styles, no pun intended there, between the Limitless One, the man who can do anything he puts his mind to. Obviously, power game on the advantage of Keith Lee.
Limitless.
Yes, but also the man that can soar through the air like a Jumbo 7 one of those massive airplanes.
747.
747, yeah. And then Jon Moxley, the innovator of violence, the new innovator of violence, if you will.
Purveyor of unscripted Mox Violence.
Yes. So just so much going on this round. I can't wait to just delve into this one.
So we are going to kick things off here with the first match of the night. Hangman Adam Page takes on Tessa Blanchard. And what a fantastic matchup. Now, this is not something people would normally consider a good matchup. Tessa Blanchard at about 5'5", 125, perhaps a little bit more now. Hangman Page, and of course I'm talking about bulk. Please don't come after me, IWC. Hangman Page, last time I remember him weighing in was somewhere between 240 and 260. So both of these are fantastic competitors, but there's definitely a size disadvantage for Tessa Blanchard in this matchup.
So as we came into this one, like we've done with every match prior, we presented the polls to you guys, and we asked you for your opinions, who you think would win going into this one. And the IWC voted, and you guys picked Tessa Blanchard at 67% over Adam Page, 33%. So were you guys right? Did Tessa overcome the Hangman? Well, let's talk about it.
Well, Tessa Blanchard put up a hell of a fight. I'll tell you that right up front. There is a reason that she's the Impact World Champion, and it's not just because there's no one else talented in Impact. They have Moose. Well, he's a champion now too, I suppose. So, but yeah, so Tessa Blanchard is an absolutely fantastic athlete. She's a great fighter, and she is still purveying her craft. That's the important thing. She's still sculpting her craft. She's still perfecting the way that she works inside the ring. And I think that's an important thing to take out of this. And, of course, my tone kind of betrays the results of the match here. Despite Tessa Blanchard's most valiant efforts, Hangman Page was just too much to overcome. This was a difficult match, and from start to finish, Hangman had it pretty much in hand. I mean, Tessa attempted to get some offense in. She fought back. It wasn't just a squash match, but Hangman Adam Page, just the larger competitor, the stronger competitor, and as of right now, maybe the more seasoned, which is odd because Hangman is a little bit younger than Tessa.
Well, and we talked about this in the fact that, you know, Tessa is the fairy tale story. I mean, the fact that she was able to go over Pentagon last week and shock the world, I thought it did wonders for her. Like, you know, the fan support that she's been getting through this tournament, I thought has been phenomenal. But what we haven't really seen in this tournament, I mean, we know that she has that mentality, as you have to be one of the best wrestlers in the world, is that she feels that she is one of the best damn wrestlers in this tournament and that she's going to win the whole thing. And while that mentality, like, we've seen that attitude in spurts in this tournament, but it's been more of like a humble thing, especially after she beat Pentagon, just the outpouring of support she received from the fans. It was more of a humbling thing. And we saw going into this round a little bit more of that ego kind of arise going into this match with Hangman, almost as if she had already advanced to the next round. And I feel like that was what betrayed her into this match, is that, hey, you can't have, you can have the attitude, you can be brash and bold, and to be one of the best wrestlers in the world, you have to have that mentality that you're going to win every match you're in. But you can't let it betray you. You can't go into the match with the ego that, oh, I'm just going to wipe the floor with Hangman Adam Page. And clearly that's not what happened. It was a really good match, but Hangman just seemed like he took advantage of the fact that she just came into this match. I mean, I don't know, but maybe she came into this a little underprepared.
Well, I would agree with that. And, of course, we did have an interview with her before the match where she discussed what tonight looked like, how important it was. And then the reporter did mention something about the AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega match, and she said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens over there because I'm going to win this. The best wrestler in the world at the end of the day is going to be Tessa Blanchard, because no matter who comes out of that side of the bracket, I'll be facing them and I'll be taking them on. So maybe overlooking Adam Page a little bit, coming in a little bit arrogant, and then, of course, after the match, a quick interview with Tessa, and she did admit to maybe overlooking Hangman a little bit, but more or less just saying that she came into it knowing she was the better wrestler. She comes out of it knowing she's the better wrestler. So still strong in her opinions.
You got to think too. I mean, one of the things that obviously would contribute to her believing that her path to the finals would be so easy is that, I mean, we've seen Hangman these last couple months had a little trouble with the sippy sips there. So I think maybe in this last round, my man probably put down the 40 and said, maybe it's time to start taking this seriously. I noticed that there was no beer swigging after this match. Seems like he's finally starting to take things seriously, and he's fully focused on getting to the finals, especially considering that who he's going to have to face in the semifinals, which I will not spoil that for you, at least, but my God, so
yeah. So this was a fantastic matchup. All the props in the world to Tessa Blanchard. I mean, this girl fought and fought and fought and fought, but eventually a buckshot lariat and a deadeye. You don't come back from that combo. Not too many people do. And Tessa unable to kick out by the referee's 3 count. Hangman Adam Page will advance to the semifinals representing All Elite Wrestling, and with the loss from Tessa Blanchard, we lose our last competitor not to come from the Big Two.
Yes, so Impact has been eliminated. It's all Elite Wrestling or World Wrestling Entertainment.
So we're going to go ahead and move across the bracket here to the second matchup of the night, and it is a doozy. Drew McIntyre, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, goes 1-on-1 with Johnny Wrestling. This was a very skilled technical matchup at first. And then Drew McIntyre's size advantage kicked in.
And this is something that I talked about, and we saw this, we saw it rear its ugly head later as the match started to drag on longer, is that if you ask me who was the better technical wrestler, it's obviously Johnny Gargano. I mean, the guy is just a master in ring prowess. Like he's one of the best in the world. But Drew McIntyre, as I've said it before and I'll say it 1,000 times, is a freak athlete. He is the prototype of what you want to see in a modern professional wrestler. So I said, if Johnny Gargano is going to have a chance in hell in this match, any weakness that you see, that you're going to have to target some of the injuries that McIntyre may have sustained. I mean, I don't want to say he's had a cakewalk up to this point, but I mean, his first match was against Moose, but obviously his second match was against Jay Lethal, who did any and everything to try to win that match, and that left McIntyre a little battered and bruised. But I mean, compared to some of the other harder matchups we've seen getting to this point, obviously McIntyre's had a little bit more of an easier time, but he's still, a little battered and bruised. And I said, if you're Johnny, you're going to have to take advantage of that. And we kind of saw, again, you made mention to it. I don't know what you even call him. You can't say the black heart, that's Tommaso Ciampa, but I guess the dark rebel heart of Johnny Gargano, that aggressive, willing to do whatever it takes mentality from Johnny started to rear its head in this matchup as the match dragged on. And you started seeing Johnny taking advantage of situations that normally he wouldn't go. He stoked the levels that, your prototypical babyface wouldn't necessarily do. He taking full advantage of the referee's count, doing stuff behind the ref's back. Like anything it took to win this match, Johnny was willing to go that far, because that's how much winning this match and going on to the semis and winning this whole tournament means. Because as much as we talk about Kenny, AJ, and Okada being the top 3 wrestlers in the world, this tournament is about proving who is the best wrestler in the world. So to him, damn what 2 random guys from Detroit think. Like, if I win this tournament, I'm the best wrestler in the world, and that's all that matters. So that was all Johnny Gargano had in his mind going to this match, and he's willing to do whatever it took to prove that. But unfortunately, This isn't the first time. This isn't Drew McIntyre's first rodeo. I mean, hell, he had to beat Brock Lesnar to win the WWE Championship. So he's been through punishment, and he knows how to handle a sneaky heel. So he was able to overcome Johnny Wrestling in this matchup.
Well, and this is the funny thing. Drew McIntyre was not initially in this tournament. Drew McIntyre was one of our last guys out of this tournament. And when he beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, he entered his way into this tournament. He wasn't even supposed to be here. And Drew McIntyre now is moving on to the semifinals. Like, this is a guy who was never even supposed to be in the thing in the first place.
Yep.
So Drew McIntyre has more to prove than any single person on this, except maybe Tessa, and she's out now too. So, I mean, Drew McIntyre is probably the person with the most left to prove.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously, he's not, I don't want to say he's not old by any stretch of the means, but
no.
He's, compared to someone like AJ Styles, he's definitely on the younger side of things. He's got a lot of career left. And you think for Drew McIntyre, someone who's been undervalued, he feels like his entire career, and having to claw his way back to prove just how good he thinks he is and prove that to everybody. He proved that, I feel like, when he beat Brock Lesnar, when he won the Royal Rumble, like everything he's accomplished this past year. Winning this tournament would just cement the year that he's had, cement that in his own mind that, yeah, I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world. It's about time people started recognizing that as truth. So this means everything for Drew McIntyre, and he wasn't going to let Johnny Wrestling screw him out of this.
And this is another fantastic win, so we do have a wrestler from WWE advance. We knew we would from this matchup, of course, anyways. But we now have one from each company advancing, and we'll move back across the bracket to the bottom right to the Limitless Keith Lee, the North American champion.
We didn't cover the finish of the last match.
Oh, I apologize. Go ahead. Fill them in.
So, Johnny Gargano went for his patented super kick and kind of reversed, as it ended up being a Claymore kick from Drew McIntyre that would seal it for the 1, 2, 3. That's how McIntyre is advancing on now to the semifinals of the World Wrestling Classic.
Yes, and of course, the longer reach of Drew McIntyre playing in once again there. Now we move across to the North American champion, the Limitless Keith Lee, taking on All Elite Wrestling's world champion, Jon Moxley. And by God, this was a match.
So in the polls, I didn't mention it, I'll go ahead and throw it out there. You guys were firmly behind McIntyre in the last one. And this one, not close, but closer than the last one, as Moxley had a firm 87% over Keith Lee in the polls. So obviously a lot of support for Moxley. Keith Lee, a very popular superstar in his own right, but obviously Moxley's just the bigger brand. He's more well-known. So a lot of you guys showing your support for Moxley in this tournament. But as we've seen, fan support doesn't really mean anything. So did that matter? Did going into this matchup?
Well, fan support sure doesn't hurt when it comes to a match like this. The purveyor of Mox Violence. That's the one thing that you're going to have to remember when you're thinking about this match. As we know, Keith Lee has had a long, long path to get here.
Yes, he has.
He first had to go through Brock Lesnar just to get in. Then he had to beat Seth Rollins, then Scorpio Sky. He's been dealing with battered and damaged ribs this entire competition. And the purveyor of Mox Violence made sure that those ribs kept hurting. Yes. So, of course, Jon Moxley, while he is a fantastic brawler, has also showed some mat skills, and he's been working those ribs. He worked those ribs throughout the entire match, holding Keith Lee down, limiting his ability to both breathe and his ability to, get up and get moving. So Mox really, really went on the advantage here, and Keith Lee fought back hard. it's not to say that Keith Lee was down and out by any standard of the imagination. Keith Lee was in this match from start to finish, but with those ribs, it was just hard to mount any major offense.
Well, and it actually, there were some points in this match where it looked like Keith Lee would get the victory. I mean, he hit Moxley with a big bang catastrophe at the near kind of the middle to end point of this match. Moxley would, of course, kick out. And Keith Lee showing how his limitless ability, would kick out of a... I keep trying to call it dirty deeds. It's a paradigm shift now. So yeah, kicked out of the paradigm shift. Actually kicked out of two of them, actually. So kind of
Death Rider.
Yes, kicked out of two paradigm shifts, showing that he's willing to do whatever it takes to win this match, showing that it takes a lot to keep the big man down. And it showed that Moxley, kind of caught off guard when Keith Lee kicked out of the second one, and it almost seemed like you could feel the momentum starting to turn in Keith Lee's favor. But still, the injury to the ribs a little bit too much for Keith Lee. It would be Keith going for the second Big Bang catastrophe, reversed into a third paradigm shift, and that one would put the big man away.
Yeah, you know what is really, really odd? Keith Lee, after, of course, kicking out of that paradigm shift, he goes for a spirit bomb just thereafter, and he kind of loses his grip, his core burning from the injury to his ribs, drops Moxley, and that's kind of what gets Mox back into the match a little bit. And, of course, we get the ending that you just talked about. So Jon Moxley moving on to the semifinals, taking down the behemoth, the limitless Keith Lee. I wouldn't be surprised if next year this is a matchup that we see again, and we see Keith Lee, maybe not injured, go over.
Well, I was going to say...
Keith Lee looks fantastic.
I was going to say, too, I mean, you definitely know Keith Lee has so much left to go in his career. I mean, it definitely wouldn't surprise me, and I would highly recommend that Keith Lee enter himself back into this tournament next year, that he try to come back, and because I do feel like with a little bit more time, maybe lack of injury to the ribs, that you could see Keith Lee progress farther in this tournament. He could be on to the semifinals and perhaps even the finals. He could, someone like Keith Lee, a tournament like this is made for someone like Keith Lee. I think it's not beyond reasonable comprehension that Keith Lee could take home a World Wrestling Classic trophy at some point in the future, in my opinion.
Yes. So, at the arena now, we're talking about getting to that last match. Something a little unorthodox. We threw in a 30-minute intermission to allow all the fans to escape to the bathroom, go get their bathroom break in, commentary talk to everybody who's watching on the TVs, because we all know this last match is not going to be short, and it is going to be must-see TV. AJ Styles takes on Kenny Omega. The Phenomenal One and the Best Bout Machine go head-to-head, and this is something that we did not want anyone to miss.
So, this match, as we've done with all of them, we went to go to the polls here and see what people thought. A little surprising to me, AJ Styles taking home 75% of the vote here. Kenny Omega receiving only 25%. I thought that was shocking to me. I felt that Kenny would have a little bit more support going into this one. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess the WWE fans got out and voted. That's all I can say. Because every indie fan I know goes, I love AJ. I love what he did in Impact. I love what he did in New Japan. But Kenny. So I'm not surprised, I guess. AJ's a little bit more of a home known name, like a household name. There we go.
Yeah.
big brain thoughts.
Yeah, I mean he's been
a household name.
He's been doing this for a long time now. So and the fact that he's been in all the major companies, he's been in Impact, he's been in New Japan. I think he did a little bit in Ring of Honor. He has been in WWE, obviously. Like, he's been all over the world. So talk about getting your brand out there. I mean, there's not a better way to do it than to wrestle in every single major company in the world. So I guess it shouldn't have been as big of a surprise to me that AJ would have had the support going in this match. But I felt that things have been a little bit different this past year. I felt like a lot of people, the support online has started to turn a little bit more towards Kenny. You know, you've seen the 6.5-star Dave Meltzer classics between Kenny and Okada. So, I mean, and what Kenny's been doing, obviously, in All Elite Wrestling. And that's not to say that AJ hasn't been doing well in WWE, but, I mean, his matches with John Cena were fantastic. And he's had really good matches. He had matches with Shinsuke and matches with Finn Balor, but more recently, he hadn't really been
matches that makes me want to vomit just saying it is him versus Shane McMahon.
Yes, and even his bout against The Undertaker, which wasn't really a match, but it was still a really good fight. But you know, he hasn't really been involved in a lot of major storylines this past year besides The Undertaker thing. So it just felt like, you know, maybe he was starting to not fade out of the spotlight, but you know, maybe kind of take more of that back seat role, you know, and maybe it was Kenny's time to step up, but clearly not. But let's go ahead and jump into this matchup.
So these two went to war with one another, and there's so many underlying storylines with this. You know, AJ Styles left New Japan, and people telling Kenny Omega the only reason he got his shot is because AJ left. People on AJ's side saying, you know, you only left for WWE because you had somebody behind you. You know, so there's competing and conflicting ideas, and a lot of it circles around the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the leadership of the Bullet Club.
You saw something that was kind of interesting with this match, is that after both men had their entrance and they'd entered the ring, is that you saw not only competitors from this tournament, but competitors from all the major companies, especially AEW and WWE, come out to watch this match. Like, we saw them in the front row. We saw them kind of standing up at the top of the ramp. Like, we saw, especially again, those AEW and WWE competitors. I want to kind of focus on that, because that is what this match felt like. It felt like it was AEW / New Japan, however you want to put it, versus WWE, but it just felt like it was like this was the two companies going at it. This was the best of the best from WWE going against the best of the best from the indie scene. That's what that felt like, this whole match. There's so much more at stake, so much more on the line than just a championship or even who's the face of a company, but we're talking about who is legitimately one of the best, who is the best wrestler in the world, who is number one in that top 3 discussion. And this goes beyond company boundaries, because I felt like it's like at first I thought it was these people coming out because they want to support their guy, but it was bigger than that, because it was these guys coming out to watch this match because you're legitimately watching wrestling history. You're watching two of the best wrestlers in the world face off for what felt like eternity and put on, in my opinion, the best match ever.
Yeah, I would say that this gets at least 8 stars on Dave Meltzer's scale. It probably would, let's be honest. But AJ Styles, since going to WWE, has had one of those matches with John Cena. And that's a match that's been talked about for a long, long time as one of the best matches that WWE has put on in the last decade. And you see that again here, but it's a little different because AJ Styles is somewhere in the middle. He represents WWE, but he's an indie guy. Whereas, you know, John Cena is like all the way over here. He's a WWE guy through and through. So it's an interesting little middle ground that AJ Styles has there, and not very many people represent that kind of demographic when it comes to pro wrestling. So this was a match for the ages, and of course, you talk about the people who came out to support. Front and center was Kota Ibushi. Ibushi was there for his boy. He was ready to watch him rock and roll. And this was, again, just an absolute classic. If I sat here and broke down this match for you move by move, we'd be here for forever. At least an hour and a half.
The biggest thing to point out was the Bullet Club. You saw members of the Elite. All of them were out there as well. And just to watch, I mean, obviously...
Well, this is the thing. So, of course, the Bullet Club as it stands today is so very different from where it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So you had guys like Tama Tonga, who's an original Bullet Club member, and the Elite, and Adam Cole was there, and Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, was there, and there were tons of guys from all different eras just standing there, because this was the Clash of Titans. This was Kenny and AJ. And while, yes, I guess you could kind of argue that Cody was the leader at the time Kenny was there, Kenny was the leader of the Bullet Club. Damn it, let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
This was the battle of two of the longest reigning leaders in Bullet Club history. So this was, I mean, the storylines told up and down, and to see these guys all standing out there watching, and, you know, from the OC to the Elite to the OGs from New Japan to guys from Undisputed Era to, I mean, everyone was there.
And this match, obviously, with a match that does go this long, no shortage of false finishes. I mean, my God, Styles class after Styles class, phenomenal forearm.
I do want to point out, most importantly, how this match started. AJ Styles and Kenny Omega, regardless of what we think, have a tremendous amount of professional respect for one another. And the match didn't start with a handshake. It started with a too sweet. A callback to the Bullet Club, to where both of them really got their most popular jump. So a too sweet to start the match, and these guys went off running. And when I say running, I mean full-on sprinting. High octane, fast-paced action. And as you said, probably it took 25 to 30 minutes before we even got anywhere near our first false finish, because these guys, again, know each other's movesets very well. They've studied one another. They were close, never worked together particularly very much, but they were very close.
Well, something that was super surprising about this is the fact that we've talked about that AJ is getting up there in age, and the fact that we haven't seen him put on a match like this since arriving in WWE. I mean, he's had the great matches with Balor and John Cena. The closest you got to his indie style of wrestling was the match with Finn Balor, but he hasn't put on a fast pace from start to finish, like one of those more indie style matches since arriving in WWE. So it almost seemed like he would have been out of his element going into a match like this against Kenny Omega, but he seemed right at home. I mean, I guess you can't teach a dog new tricks, and he's been in this game forever, so he clearly still knows how to wrestle that style of wrestling. He doesn't just forget. It's like riding a bike, I suppose. So it kind of surprised me that this match went as long as it did, and the fact that it went at the pace that it did.
So let's talk about how this started to wind down. AJ Styles hits a Styles Clash. Kenny Omega kicks out. Styles locks in the calf killer. Yes, calf killer. It's indie wrestling. And Kenny Omega able to get the rope break. Kenny hits a tiger driver. AJ kicks out. V-trigger. AJ kicks out. AJ hits a phenomenal forearm. Kenny kicks out. Both of these guys going back and forth, trading blows, trading finishes. AJ is out of his mind, incensed. Kenny gets him up on his shoulders for the one-winged angel. AJ fights out, hits him with a Styles Clash. 1, 2, no. He looks up and he goes, "What do I have to do to put you away?" And then the light bulb goes on. AJ Styles gets Kenny Omega up on his shoulders. and reminiscent of Kenny Omega, paying homage, if you will, to AJ Styles in the G1 Climax. AJ Styles hits Kenny Omega with the one-winged angel. 1, 2, 3. That's it. No one kicks out of that move. That's night-night. And AJ knows it. Kenny countered from doing that move. Gave AJ the insight into what he needed to beat him.
Just what a poetic ending it feels like for this storyline. I mean, Kenny, as you mentioned, won the G1 Climax right after AJ left New Japan with a Styles Clash. So how just perfect is it that AJ would beat Kenny to go on to the semifinals of the World Wrestling Classic with his own move, with the one-winged angel? And we can say that it's, paying homage. I feel like it's a little more of a disrespect kind of thing. You feel like, I mean, AJ. I mean, we talked about this, how like AJ, since arriving in the WWE, I mean, we saw the way he left New Japan. He was obviously attacked by the Bullet Club, by Kenny Omega. You think you forget about that? And you think you forget about the idea that, we've seen the matches with Kenny and Okada and the 6.5 stars, and everyone's saying that, yeah, AJ's in that top 3, but again, we talked about, where do you put AJ in that top 3? Is he 2? Is he 3? Some blasphemous folk out there even move him out of the top 3, and you're just flat out wrong for that opinion, and I'll debate you all day. So, the idea that, coming into this matchup, you're AJ and you go, what does it take? What do I got to do? And then you just think, I remember, like, you thought I didn't see that. Like, you thought I didn't notice that that's how you win your first match after I leave and go to WWE, and you win that with a Styles Clash? You know what? That's how I'm going to end this. That's how it ends. It ends with a one-winged angel. And just that, just that, little puff of the chest, to show, it's me. We're going to talk about the best wrestler in the world, number 1 in the world. It's still me, AJ Styles. So I just thought that was great. Like, that was phenomenal, if you will. And now the idea to see AJ Styles moving on in the semifinals, I mean, it's AJ winning this thing. Like, AJ has got to win this at this point. Like, he's cemented himself as the best wrestler in the world, and I'm sorry to everybody else in this tournament, but you're not beating AJ Styles.
And I suppose that's the difference between a WWE mindset and an indie mindset. An indie wrestler will look at that and go, you're paying homage to somebody, and a WWE wrestler will look at that and go, did you just use my finisher? What the hell's wrong with you? So, a little bit of a difference of opinion between the two styles, but whatever the occasion, it was a fantastic and very poetic finish. I'm very excited to see AJ Styles continue on in this tournament, and he definitely makes it to the finals, if you ask me. But guess what? I think I made a mistake. We talked about last week what we thought, and I said the winner comes out of the top left. That was until I saw Jon Moxley fight Keith Lee. When I saw the way Moxley handled the Limitless One, who is well larger than Jon Moxley. Yeah, injuries aside, I don't know, man. I think Moxley is going to be the champion coming out of this.
I love Moxley. I do, and I think Moxley is a phenomenal competitor, but Moxley needs to not set his sights on AJ Styles or Drew McIntyre. He needs to set his sights on Hangman Adam Page, because if he starts getting that Blanchard mentality, he's gonna get punched in the mouth, and he may not even make it to the finals.
If we learned anything from Tessa Blanchard, don't overlook Hangman Page.
Yes. So with that being said, the quarterfinals of the World Wrestling Classic are over, and we have the bracket set for the semifinals. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So here you have the bracket for the semifinals of the World Wrestling Classic. As you can see, the left side of the bracket, It's AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. As he's just proved, I'd say one of the best wrestler in the world, you could say, versus what I consider the best athlete in the world. Like, he is the prototypical what you want, what you aspire to be in a pro wrestler. And that is Drew McIntyre. He's got everything from speed to size to strength. He's got technical prowess. He's got everything. He's got everything that you'd want in a pro wrestler. So when we talk about this match, I go back and forth on this one because obviously I just said I think AJ is winning the whole tournament, and I still stand by that. I think AJ is going to win this entire tournament. I think you beat two of the top 3 wrestlers in the world. Like, AJ's on a mission, especially proving that in this match against Kenny Omega. He is on a mission that he's to prove to everyone that, yeah, I still got it. That want to talk about the best wrestler in the world, the conversation starts with me. And what better way to cement that than not only beating the other 2 top 3 wrestlers in the world, but then going on to win the World Wrestling Classic. So I think Drew McIntyre is a phenomenal athlete. He's the World Heavyweight Champion for a reason over in WWE. There's a reason they call him the Chosen One, but he's not chosen to win this one. I think AJ is going to go over because he is the man on a mission. This is his tournament to lose.
Well, I don't think Drew McIntyre is going to be the benefactor of a win here in the semifinals, but it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. And on the other side, I love Hangman Page. He's got a lot of strength, a lot of athleticism, and he's a great young competitor, but I just don't see him going over Jon Moxley. So let's go ahead and start wrapping things up here. What are you most excited for going into next week?
Well, we can't. I can't just let you give your opinion on Moxley Hangman and then push that aside because we know how much you're a mark for Jon Moxley now. Come on. So this is going Hangman Adam Page is phenomenal. I mean, he's a light heavyweight. Like, the dude's over 240 and moves like he's once he gets going like a freight train. Like, he moves like he's 180. Like, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be such a good match, and this is something that if this was just an all Dynamite crew, then this would be a match you could potentially see for the AEW World Championship and we might see that down the line potentially. I would love to see it personally. I think that Hangman obviously has come a long way since being that young gun in the Bullet Club. He's established himself as a weekly commodity over on Dynamite, as he's one of the top wrestlers in the company, one half of the World Tag Team Champions, along with Kenny Omega. So he's proven himself to be a top competitor over in that company. And I hope for Moxley's sake that he doesn't take your mentality and just try to push on and brush past Hangman, because as I said before, he's going to get punched in the mouth. I mean, you got to, if you're Moxley, I think personally this is going to be one of Moxley's hardest challenges in the tournament, and I think that it's going to be a fantastic match. Who I think's going over, I would have to say it's probably going to be Moxley, just because Moxley's been in this game it's a little bit of a while, so he definitely has the experience advantage over Hangman. I think while we did see Hangman finally put down the sips there and start to take this seriously, I don't know, man. I mean, I think Moxley's just got the advantage here. I think Hangman has shown that when things get frustrating, he tends to get in his own head a little bit. So that might become a factor in this match as it starts to drag out, because Moxley again has that never say die attitude. You hit the guy with a couple dead eyes or a couple buckshot lariats, and he kicks out, and you start to wonder, what do I gotta do to put this man away? And that's the inexperience there, because a guy like AJ Styles, he hits Kenny Omega with 1,000 of his finishers, and he just goes, it is what it is. Someone like Hangman, maybe he hits Moxley with a couple of those, and he starts to doubt himself. So I think, is going to play a factor in this match. I do think Moxley is going over, but I'm not going to discount Hangman by any stretch of the imagination, because that would just be asinine. So I think It's going to be a fantastic match. I am looking so forward to next week's the semifinals. It's going to be two amazing matches, and you really are seeing kind of a battle of the past and present here. I mean, if we take a look at the bracket, I mean, you've got AJ Styles again, that old grizzled vet, and you've got Jon Moxley, who's he's not old by any stretch of the means, but he's not a spring chicken anymore either. And then you look at someone...
He's a veteran of the business, somebody who's been everywhere. This is the opposite of AJ Styles, the guy who went from WWE to the indie scene.
Yeah. And then you look at, Drew McIntyre and Hangman. They've got youth on their side. I would say more Hangman than McIntyre. Hangman's definitely of these four, he's the youngest person still left in the tournament. So whether that hurts or helps him, we'll see. I think where Drew McIntyre has an advantage over AJ in comparison to Hangman is that McIntyre has been in this business for a long time, and he's been everywhere. He was in WWE, marked as the chosen one. He leaves WWE, goes on a tour of the indie scene, rebuilds himself, rebrands himself, perfects his craft, comes back, conquers the mountain, becomes world heavyweight champion after defeating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Like, you can't tell that story any more perfect. So I think McIntyre definitely has more of an advantage over his opponent than in comparison to Hangman. But in comparison to who he's fighting, again, Drew McIntyre, I think, has the harder challenge in the fact that he's facing off against legit one of the top 3 wrestlers in the world in AJ Styles in comparison to Jon Moxley, who is, by no means, don't take this as an insult, because Moxley is still a fantastic wrestler, and I think he's legitimately in that, I would say in that top 15 conversation, right, as of right now. Maybe even you put him in the top 10, because who's done more than Moxley this past year? So I think that's a conversation that we definitely need to start having if it's not already being had around the world. So, but I do think the competition's just of AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. You put that just a little bit more over Jon Moxley. So I don't know. I mean, there's so many factors going into these next matchups, and that's why it's so exciting. You generally just don't know who's going to get the win here. And as I sat here and I extrapolated about how AJ's got this tournament in the bag, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know. So that's what's so interesting about this.
Well, we're going to have to watch and see as these matches play out. 1 week from today, we'll be live. And by live, I mean we'll be recording. And by recording, I mean we're going to record and then release it probably a day after we record, or 2, with World Wrestling Classic 2020 semifinals for you. Of course, I'm going to go over it just one more time. Kenny Omega, one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions, taking on the WWE World Heavyweight Champion Drew McIntyre.
You said Kenny Omega.
Taking on Drew McIntyre. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot that AJ won.
Yeah.
God, I forgot that there are some people who think that AJ is the best wrestler in the world. AJ Styles, the phenomenal one, taking on the WWE World Heavyweight Champion and one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions, Hangman Adam Page, taking on the AEW World Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley in what is our 2020 World Wrestling Classic Final Four.
So you guys have been so supportive of this up to this point, so make sure you guys continue to support us. Go on social media. We will be posting the bracket and the polls once again for these Final Four matchups, so make sure you go on and show your support for your guys and who you think is going to be advancing on to the finals of the World Wrestling Classic. How do you find our social medias? Well, those links are going to be down in the description below. Of course, on the Twitter machine is where you can vote and find the bracket, but show our Facebook some support, some love and affection. And while you're at it, you can follow us on our own personal social medias as well. Mine on Twitter, Nick on Twitter, and on the Instagram. And as always, the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast is only available on YouTube due to that show not be named. But when everything goes back to normal, then cool. crisp, lovely audio is going to be directly available for all of you on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and the lovely Podbean, as well as wherever you can find fantastic pro wrestling podcasts like ourselves.
Yes, and the important thing is it's available for you to just turn it on, turn your phone off, slip it into your pocket, and let it go directly into your noggin.
Exactly. So you can hear your favorite two at any time of the day. So, unless you've got anything else.
I do have one last thing I'd like to say. So, for those of you who are really involved in this World Wrestling Classic, those of you who really, really love what we're doing here, you guys have been very, very supportive, very fantastic. But as you know, in just a few weeks, this will be coming to an end as the finals will be here. So we have some ideas already in place for some new original content. But if you guys have anything that you'd like us to visit, any ideas for original content you'd like us to create involving wrestling, no, I will not rate my favorite 5 songs about ducks. But if you want to give us any ideas on some originals we can do about wrestling, we are always open to some suggestions. We will go ahead and float some of those ideas your way, come around the finals, and we'll see where we're at and which ones we're going to do first. But most importantly, please remember to interact with us, and please remember to stay home and stay safe.
So with that being said, this has been the quarterfinals of the World Wrestling Classic. Tune in next week for the semifinals. And if that's all, then I've been Marcus White, live from Studio 6.
I am Le Champion, Fight Mode Nick Cavalli, live from the spare bedroom.
And you just finished watching the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast. Subscribe, ring the notification bell to join the revolution.
Have a good one. Everybody. I keep on
Everybody. Have a good night, guys.